Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place for getting practical guidance for navigating the cosmic tides. My name is Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with Predictive Astrologer and Ortelee. And we're so thrilled to be here with all of you. I know there's some big waves out there. I was saying to someone that I know, there's a big swell. Like there's a big swell coming, and he's a surfer, so he was right there with me. So, Anne, give us the intensity scale. What are you seeing this week?
It's kind of an interesting week. So I think we're gonna you're either gonna be like going through it really steady Eddie, or you're gonna be like, oh my God, with your eyes open in a wild ride. And it really kind of depends on where the stuff lands in your chart, right? So we have. And when I see weeks like this, I'm always like, all right, so where are you on your journey in understanding stuff? Because this is the week where the universe kind of gives you a pop quiz. Remember when you were a kid and you went into class and the universe goes, okay, take out your papers and pens. And you're like, oh. And then were you listening that day? Were you not listening? It's a pop quiz. So, and it's a pop quiz that's important because if you weren't listening, this is going to be averaged into your grade and you're going to go, oh, no. So I always hated pop quizzes, although I usually did okay on them, but they always freaked me out a little because they kind of came unexpected. So you're kind of like, oh my God, I didn't expect that. And that's the energy of the week, is it's got this unexpected stuff. There's, a lot of, if you go read on the internet, this full moon coming up on the Halloween, everybody's going, oh my God, it's the hardest full moon of the year. It's a pop quiz. It's moon on Uranus opposite the sun in Scorpio. So we're back to Taurus 2 years ago, 19, the Taurus moon back then. And we're working with that energy and kind of trying to figure out with this full moon what the story is. Actually, I probably made that mistake. That was two. We're back to 18, the new moon in 18, and it is a like you get it. There's a breakthrough. There's an aha moment. There's a rupture. Uranus is very much about ruptures, unexpected things. Everybody's talking October surprise. It's the 31st. It's the October surprise. It's the day on Samhain. I practiced on the internet this week, which is the Celtic New Year. We're at the cross quarter. So it's very potent. It's very visible. It's very seen. And it's Scorpio. Now, as we lead up to it, we have Mercury Combust the Sun this week. And longtime listeners of this podcast know when Mercury combusts the sun, nobody listens. Everybody thinks they're right. And again, like the pop quiz that the teacher gives you, you kind of go, do I know what this is, right? So I remember as a kid, I raised Catholic, we're sitting for confirmation classes, right? So you have to remember the creed. What do you believe in? I believe in God the Father. It's like a long thing, the Apostles' Creed, right? I'm an O. So the teacher had us in alphabetical order. She asked, what do you believe in? And the kid would go, God, Holy Father, Jesus, blah, 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 blah. Got to me. I'm like, I got this answer. And I did the creed, right? And she was like, good for you. So next week she goes, okay, so what do we believe in? I'm like, well, it didn't get to the O's. Like a B got it, and the B stood up and I do believe in it. And I'm like, and so you might find you're a little annoyed that they got it before you did because of the Mercury combust the sun. It's a little bit of a jealousy thing. It's a little bit of envy, and I was talking to you and Jamie earlier about like some envy I had seen that was kind of like, oh, okay, that's a dog whistle that you just blew there. And I was pretty pissed about it, right? So I was walking around my apartment today talking to myself about it. But I also know Mercury combusts the sun, probably not a good idea to point it out because everybody's going to ground into their positions, right? So, and Mercury, of course, is retrograde in Scorpio. Mars is retrograde in Aries. So those two guys, what we think and how we take action or what we want to take action about are going backwards. Now, that's not a bad thing. If you're a person and you have Mercury retrograde and you meet somebody else who has a Mercury retrograde, don't be afraid to start a relationship. In New York, there was an astrologer that had Mercury retrograde. He met this woman who had Mercury retrograde, and a very good astrologer, my astrology teacher here in New York, John Marcusella, picked a Mercury retrograde day for them to get married on. And everybody was like, oh my God, he picked a day on Mercury retrograde. I said, but they both had Mercury retrograde. So for them, it worked. And it was like, go, right? Go do it. You're here. You're being asked on the Mercury retrograde. This is the one time, this kid's going to say he likes you, because it's Mercury retrograde, because he doesn't talk about that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we have all the other planets, all the Capricorn planets are starting to break up. They've been having a family reunion. They've been having a party all year. Saturn has pulled away. He's like, bye-bye. I'm, kind of think cocktail party, only it was kind of a mean cocktail party. I'm going out to the car, honey, to Jupiter. You say your goodbyes. I'm going to go warm up the car. So Saturn has left the building. He's moving on. He's full steam ahead into Aquarius. Pluto's holding the party because they all met at Pluto's house. Jupiter is going to come up and meet Pluto in a week or two on November 12th. So, Jupiter's actually talking to all the people at the party because he's a party guy and he doesn't get in the car. Saturn's happy to be in the car waiting. And then Jupiter goes by to Pluto. And Saturn, of course, when he left, he said to Pluto, I'll see you in 2053. Because that's the next time he goes to a party at Pluto's house. Jupiter, when he leaves, he goes, I'll see you in 12 years and 33. And he leaves, 13 years, he leaves. So he's leaving once he goes past Pluto on November 12th. So we're moving forward with the structuring of our lives, but with Mercury and Mars still going backwards. We're going back and we're fixing things. We're revising things. We're looking at things. We're figuring out, and remember, Mars has one more pass through the COVID clump. He's going to whack Pluto. He's going to whack Saturn. He's going to whack Jupiter. He's going to get Jupiter and Saturn in January. He's going to get Pluto in December because he goes direct on the 13th too. So there's a lot going on that 12th, 13th. Right. So as an astrologer, we look and go, that's when we know the election results, right? Because that's, that'll be when they figure it out. Because that's when everything meets, goes forward and says, okay, we got the plan. What's next? Election in the United States. But if you go back and you look at April 1st, March 30th, April 1st, you go back and look at June 30th, the 1st of July, whatever story you were working on, also goes forward in November, where the universe goes, okay, we've made a decision. So I was presenting Sunday to the Philadelphia chapter on the rest of the year, right? And a woman caught on and asked, she said, this correlates completely. I was pulling the emails match April 1st when Jupiter and Pluto met, June 30th when Jupiter and Pluto met, and the projects due then. I'm like, right. Because these are and it's restructuring her organization that she's running. She's delegated this job. So we're all going to have that story. But also, as the guys break up and leave the party, and Jupiter goes to join Saturn in the car, and that happens December 21st. They're both in the car and they drive off together for the next 20 years of the rest of their life. So think of it as they've had a going away party, for the year. And now Jupiter and Saturn go, okay, now we're going to go off and live our lives for 20 years. Saturn says, I'll catch you in 2053. Jupiter says to Pluto, they both say to Pluto, I'll catch you in 2033. And they're done. I mean, they'll email and stuff, but they're not going to see each other. So, but they're also going to go, remember that party? Right?
Remember we remember that party.
Everybody's going to remember the COVID party. We've all been part of it for the last year, right? And remember, Pluto's back where he was in January, Saturn's back where he was in March, and then we're hearing a lot of stuff. Ooh, the virus is spiking. It hasn't spiked like this since May, June. Well, that was when Jupiter Pluto met, right? So we understand that these bigger cycles, but the boys are breaking up. The party's coming to an end, which is good. I think maybe I can eat dinner at a restaurant again. but we still have more to do because Jupiter and Saturn are moving to a new country. They're going into Aquarius. They haven't been there in 800 years.
You mean together?
Last time they were there was 800 years ago.
Wait, they together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
12.
What was happening 800 years ago?
That was the Magna Carta getting signed. When we migrated from an Earth, 200 years of Earth, because they meet only every 20 years, right? So we migrated from an Earth conjunction set into an air, and that transition was when the Magna Carta was signed. And they said, we don't have to be ruled by mean kings. And we want habeas, the foundation of the American and English jurisprudence systems, habeas corpus, you can't throw me away, you can't tell me what to do. But all that happened then. You don't have to, kings are not gods. And so Saturn Pluto is our relationship to our authority. So what that did back then was it said, take the authority in. You are the authority of your life, not your mother, not your father, not your church, not your society. You are the authority. What is your responsible role as a member of your own family, your own tribe, your own group? What's your relationship to your community? What's your relationship to your country? What's your relationship to the world? And we all have to go look at our Saturns, go by the Saturn, do your Saturn workshop. We all have to go do our Saturns. And if we do our Saturns, we're doing it right. If not, you're going to fail the pop quiz. And Saturn's going to go, I hope you pass the final. Because the pop quiz is this weekend on the full moon.
When's the final? December 21st?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Saturn goes back into Aquarius. I think it's the 12th of December. But when he and Jupiter meet up, that's the big exam. That's kind of in New York, we have this thing, a state issued exam called the Regents, and it's administered by the state. That's when the Regents is. But yeah, the final papers and everything are due in December before Saturn goes into Aquarius for good, for true, for 29 years. He's not coming back to Capricorn. He was there last in 91. He's done with Capricorn for 29 years. He's moving into Aquarius, and he's like, okay, we're taking the structures that we modified for the last 2.5 years while I was traveling through Capricorn, and now we're allowing them to express themselves in terms of what their service is supposed to be to the community. And of course, Saturn rules, but I mean, a lot of people go, Uranus. I'm like, yeah, but traditional rulers, before they discovered Uranus in the 1700s, when we had the revolutions, right? The revolutions against the kings or the authorities. Saturn was the ruler of Aquarius, which it says you build a structure, which is great. And then it's supposed to serve the community, Aquarius, and then it falls apart. Pisces, it dissolves, it dies, it leaves. So we're moving into the how does it serve the community part for the next 2.5 years, which in traditional time with the Saturn-Uranus square, we're going to look at that as the Renaissance. Like, okay, we went through this, is your business closed? Is your school open? What's your work? Where are you living? What's the relationship to all those questions, that the structures that changed, and they're going to have changed wherever you have the COVID clump in wherever that 23 Capricorn is. But this then remains a sensitive point until 2053. So every time any planet goes over 22 Cap, you're going to be like, oh, it's back again. Oh, it's back again. And it not necessarily with the same intensity, but it's going to evoke the story for the next 38 years, 29 years, 20 years, 13 years, 19 years. So you're going to remember it. You're not going to forget it, but you're going to move forward into this next chapter. Does that make sense?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So much good stuff there. I love the analogy of Saturn going out to the car, Jupiter saying goodbyes, Jupiter having his final goodbye with Pluto on November 12th, 13th, and then meeting Saturn in the car. They drive off into Aquarius.
For 20 years, the next 20 years. Yeah.
But they're not going to be together in Aquarius for 20 years.
No, they're going to dance for 20 years together. Yeah.
They're going
to start a new cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in May, so the last time they met was May of 2000, right? And the time before that, they met in 80. So in 80, I went into computer programming. That was when I switched from being, I switched into kind of a salesy computer thing. And I had, it was a big year. And then in 2000, I was working at Pepsi at the time. We'd finished the year 2K conversion. We had a whole team. And in May, everybody split to the winds and everybody got new assignments except me. I was left sitting there and I was like, and they were like, well, we have this other job. And I'm kind of like, I want to go be an astrologer. I don't want to be computers anymore. I mean, I appreciate it. I love it. Thank you. It was been fun, but I want my next 20 years to be astrology. And so that May of 2000 or in 80, which was when I learned computers, right? Or 60, which was when my dad went into practice when I was 6. He was a physician in school when I was born. So you can go back and look at those years and see what was going on, because this initiates that kind of new cycle for you. A new beginning, a new start. I was talking to someone who's a musician and they were saying, that's when I realized I had to leave. I pulled up Dolly Parton. She was on my computer the other day because I put on YouTube and I kind of follow, it's like when I was a kid, I studied with music. So when I prep now, I do YouTube. So you get into a little lag and then they go get all the Dolly Parton videos, right? So she's talking about her life. So I pulled her chart. I'm like, oh, okay, there's that there's that transit. When she left Porter Wagner and went off on her own, when she wanted to do 9 to 5, the movie, like her career as a little kid, because she used to sing in the church, right? And her career over 70 years or whatever, however old she is, right? So it was interesting to look at because she had huge changes and we all are going to have them. Wherever you have 0 Aquarius, the new cycle is starting. And then Jupiter and Saturn start it and they begin. But the last time they were together in air was the Magna Carta getting signed, where we said, this is the rule of law that we're going to put in place. Kings aren't in charge of us anymore. So now we're looking at those structures. I don't know, we're having some arguments. Remember, Mercury is combust the sun this week. So quite frankly, don't talk to anybody who's arguing with you because you're not going to convince them. They're not going to convince you. Just kind of smile and go, going to have to agree to disagree. Probably shouldn't be talking to you right now because everybody's very hot. Mars is retrograde and it's like, going back to July 25th, Mars is going back to, and he's stationing on November 12th. So that 12th, 13th, that's going to be real wild. And we're building up to it for the next 2 weeks. So everybody just, next 3 weeks, whatever it is, everybody just needs to, kind of think of it as you're in a bar, in the old Westerns and the doors open and the guy comes in, he's backlit by the light. And all the people at the poker table take the poker chips and put them in their pockets because there's going to be a fight in the bar. And if you're smart, you'll leave with your poker chips. If you're not smart, you're going to get into a little brawl. That's the energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, just know everybody's in the mood to fight. Try not to go there. I mean, I was walking around my apartment yelling at myself, yelling at somebody, but I'm not going to yell at them in person. But I was like, all right, this is what we got to do. This is our energy right now. And so, applying your own chart to it and what your purpose is. I was talking to somebody earlier today, he called me to remind me of something. And I asked about a situation. He goes, and I had heard about it, because, word travels. And he told me kind of what, kind of filled in. So this is also a really good time to catch up on the gossip, because people are going to be talking about it because they're mad and they have to. So I had heard, fragments, but I got a fuller dish this morning. So that's the other way. Mercury combusts the sun, revealing the secrets. You're going to find out some secrets. It's a pop quiz. And you want to look at where the secrets are in your chart because they're going to be seen.
Okay, so you did not give us a number for the intensity.
I'm going to say it's going to vary. Were you paying attention?
Well, I did.
Paying attention.
Vary, but okay. So can you give us a scale from like a 6 to a 9 or 7 to a 10?
2 to a 10.
2 to a 10. Wow.
Well, if you're smart and you're paying attention, you're going to get a 2. You're going to pass the quiz. You're going to know the answers. You're going to hand them in. And then you're going to watch your friends going, can I copy your paper? And you're going to go, oh, because the teacher's paying attention. You're going to hand the paper in. If you're not paying attention, you're not going to know the answers. All right, but you're going to be like me in confirmation class. I was the O. I was like, I know the answer. I know the answer. Calling me. She was going one in a row, down the row. I'm the third row in. I'm the third kid back. I'm like sitting there like this. I know the answer. But then once I said it once, B got it. It was like halfway down the second row and that kid knew what we believe in. I'm like, God damn. But I illuminated people with what, I knew what she was asking. Right? Yes. So I knew how to answer the question.
The B guy. You helped him out.
I helped the B. Well, the next class, he came in and he paid attention that class. He knew the B. So that's the idea is you're not really graduating. You're not getting the regents until December 21st.
Right.
And then you're done. But this is the pop quiz. This one counts.
So when you say if you've been paying attention, if you've been
doing your Saturn.
So if you've been doing your Saturn, can you give us a couple more examples? So if your Saturn's in blank or blank, and we do have the workshop that you all can participate in.
Yeah. Okay. So the premise,
Saturn.
Right. So the way this works is, and there's an excellent book by Bernadette Brady called Predictive Astrology, which I encourage, Predictive Astrology, the Eagle and the Lark. She's a brilliant astrologer. She's Australian. She lives in England now. And what you do is you look at the natal placement of your planet. So you look where natal Saturn is. So in my case, natal Saturn is in my 8th house in Scorpio. And natal Pluto is in my 7th house in Leo. So they don't have a relationship. They're technically squared by a sign, but they don't talk to each other. They got married in my 12th house in my chart, but that's also your business's 6th house. It's the people that you serve through your business. So you said to me in January, can you come talk? I did. And then when we got to March, Mars came through and you said, hey, maybe you can do an update. And I said, yeah, let's do weekly. So every week we've been meeting here and we've been doing our Saturn. And you've been doing your Saturn in Leo saying, I need to give my people more so they understand. Where's your Saturn? What house?
7th.
7th, my clients who I relate to in the thing. And where's your Pluto?
In Libra. In the 8th house.
So I'm going to give my clients work. I'm going to help them, give them things they can work with to partner with their life so they can create the life they want. And where's your Capricorn?
Is 29 degrees, 12th house.
12th house. So Capricorn's in your 12th. So you're doing your spiritual path to serve your clients with this podcast. I'm doing my path by serving your clients, my 12th house, your people, with this podcast. So that's how it's showing up for us in our lives. So you look at natal placement of the 2 planets, and then where they meet up, right? So they're meeting in Capricorn. And then you look at what signs Saturn rules. So Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. Well, I have 12th house is Capricorn. My 1st house is Aquarius. So here I am showing up. That's the Saturn part. Pluto rules my 8th and 9th house. My 9th house is teaching. So I'm here teaching. That's my delivery vehicle. If we throw Jupiter in the mix, because he's part of the party, right? My natal Jupiter's in my 6th house of work. It rules my midheaven in Sag and my moon in Pisces in the 1st. So those guys are all hanging out together in the COVID clump. In your case, we're both doing our spiritual work around providing a service to other people in different ways. I mean, these are your partners. These are your business partners because you have a financial relationship with them. And I'm coming and I'm doing a Leo Scorpio public service. I've gotten clients from it, and we put that Saturn thing up and I got some money from it because that's a Saturn. But, we're just meeting every day for an hour and talking. So we have done that. And so you then look at the Sagittarius, the Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces houses in your chart, because that whole swath from Sagittarius through the new season beginning, these planets are all having this big party. I mean, it's definitely disturbed the neighbors, right? But they're all activating. right? And growing. And so that's how you do it. So you find natal placement, what they're doing, they're dancing together, they're getting married. And then what houses are they in charge of? Because those houses all become part of the party.
And so for someone new to astrology who's like, oh my God, what did she just say?
Now it's just complicated. You buy the book and you read it, and you're not, and this is more predictive. This is more predictive. Once when you go, how do they know that? That's how we know it.
I see. Yeah. So, Anne, but would it be a good starting point to just at least know what
your Saturn
is, and what house it's in? And that would give you a great anchoring starting point. You could look at and go, well, have I been learning lessons around that? Have I been growing around that? Have I been learning in that area of my life?
And then if you're a little more older in astrology, look at where your Pluto is and your Jupiter are. What sign are Pluto and Jupiter in? Because Jupiter that's the area that's been expanding. And Pluto that's the area I've been a little obsessed with. So if you got into this podcast and then you became real obsessed with astrology, I'm like, good, because my mission is everybody should learn astrology when they're 5. And now that you've learned it, you're a convert, And I have a Sag midheaven, so I want to teach you astrology. But whatever your Jupiter is or whatever your Pluto is, you've been receiving it because you tune in every Monday to get the scoop. And you're either connecting into Amanda's chart or you're connecting into my chart, or our charts, of course, connect because we work together. But that energy. So yes, the Saturn is your work in the world. The Jupiter is where you want to relate. And the Pluto is where you're passionate, where you're obsessed, where you really get into it, and you're like this. Which is why everybody's so friggin' crazy right now, because Pluto, the party's breaking up and everybody's like, and you gotta go, oh, are we drunk driving? How are we, because, or the guy coming into the bar and the backlit and everybody goes, ooh, he just arrived, So you want to, and again, you're going to have a reaction based on how the Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in your chart get along. But always, 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 the way to work with any of these transits is to do your Saturn. If you do your Saturn in anything, any transit you have, Saturn related or not, you're going to be fine. Because that's the space. So I always have to go into the psychological motivation of whoever I'm dealing with, because my Saturn's in the 8th house in Scorpio. And I have to look at that and understand it, name it, claim it, and then go, all right, I got it. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it, right? Because I Scorpio, I don't always like it, but I see it. And then I have to work with it. Because that's my job. In your case, you're supposed to bring love and light, flowers, nice, fun stuff, happiness. That's your job. I'm getting Saturn and Leo the next lifetime. That's my.
All right. Okay. Some more questions, Anne.
Yes.
So when you talked about the Magna Carta and the kings aren't gods. So this was 800 years ago when Saturn and Jupiter were last together in Aquarius.
Leaving
Earth
and going into air.
Okay. That wasn't anything about Aquarius.
And they do 200 years. Well, they went into air back then.
But was it Aquarius? They went into Aquarius. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Now you said that it was taking the authority in. That you are the authority. It was no longer like, oh, you're king, you're
the king. I have to worship you. You have I can't question you. I can't ask you I can't confront you. I can't complain to you about anything. I have to worship you. You've been appointed by God.
Right. So would you say that
took away the rule that God appointed the kings? Right. I mean, it took it a while. It didn't happen right away. But the knights all went, oh, we don't have to report into you anymore? We're on our own? And they were like, yeah. What does that do when you're suddenly free? Mm-hmm. How many of us this year have looked and gone, there's no rules. The guardrails are off the wall. What's my personal set of rules? And then what it took us on, Pluto, Jupiter, an obsessive journey inward to understand Jupiter, what we had been taught, how we had structured our life, Saturn, based on it. And was it time for those things to change? Back to the metaphor at the beginning of the year of you're a caterpillar. You can't imagine being a butterfly. Like, what are we going to be doing? We're going to make a cocoon. We're going to go through a wind. What are you talking about, man? But here we are. We're getting ready to hatch. Aquarius, we're all going to fly away, right? And get our wings dry and fly away when it gets into Aquarius. Yeah, big.
Okay. For Saturn and Capricorn, so we're at the end of a almost 3 year. I mean, with the retrograde and everything, right?
Yeah, we're at the end of a 2.5-year journey with Saturn through Cap, but we're also at the end of a 29-year cycle with Capricorn.
Right.
Back to what you were doing in 91.
Right. So in terms of this 2.5-year period being over, the Saturn and Capricorn was very much about looking at the structures in our life, looking at issues around our own integrity. So where our actions and behaviors are in or out of alignment with our truth, right? Things around discipline and mastery and maturing, like taking responsibility, all these Saturn things, right? All these
Saturn words,
Saturn, Capricorn things. So would you say that right now, because you said that Saturn's out in the car. So he's
in the car, turned on the country, turned on a little Bruce Springsteen because he's rocking and rolling in the car. And he knows when Jupiter gets there, Jupiter's going to go, can we get some jazz? I don't want Bruce, but he's listening to Bruce. Bruce is coming out with a new album, right? Or when Jupiter gets in the car, he's going to say, can we listen to Dolly Parton's new album?
Oh my God.
But right now he's in the car with Bruce, rocking and rolling, and staying there for a while. Bruce is playing Born to Run.
Right. So, okay. As he's in the car, would you say that we're now kind of done with the Saturn and Capricorn energy? Like it's like whatever we learned, whatever we revised, whatever we stepped into during that time, it's kind of like, okay, that's like a little packet of life that is sealed. And now it's going to have a whole different energy moving forward into Aquarius. Yes.
Yeah. Once a planet makes its, and this is true of any retrogrades anywhere, when they make their last retrograde, then it's full steam ahead. They are focused on where they're going. They are not learning the lessons anymore. So Saturn has learned his lessons. He said goodbye to Pluto, said, I'll see you in 2053. We'll check in from time to time, but I'm not coming back. We're not partying again. And he then moves on.
Okay, another question. How do you work with the co-rulership? So we have Saturn and Jupiter going into Aquarius, which we know traditional rulership is Saturn, but modern rulership is Uranus. So how do you see those two, or do you at all? Do you
no, you're totally
playing together. And how do you do that?
So I look at both. I mean, I always do traditional because they're shorter. Uranus spends 8 years in a sign. Jupiter spends a year. Saturn spends 2.5 years. 8 years is a long time. So I look at them and I appreciate them for what they're doing. So what Uranus is doing in Taurus since March of 19 is he's blowing up things. People are structurally blowing up stuff. When he was in Aries, he was breaking the rules. So that was the election when he was in Aries. We had a woman running and we had a person who wasn't a politician running, saying, I'm going to bring change. And that's the Taurus. And so then we're now in Taurus as of March of 2000. And Taurus says change is here. Now it's interesting because like when Friends was on TV, that was when Saturn was in Aquarius, right? And it was ran for 8 years. A lot of TV shows run 7 or 8 years. Aquarius rules TVs. It rules the small electronic device that beams images into your living room. So now as Saturn's gone into Taurus, Uranus has gone into Taurus, we're having a lot of period dramas. 8 years ago, we were having, 8 years before that, we were having a lot of Conquer the World. We had the Hunger Games. We had, it rules the media, what we're being communicated to, what the collective is being communicated to based on it. So I look at that, and Uranus went into Taurus in March of, he went just a little smidgy in May of 18, but then he went in for good for true in March of 19. And he is in Taurus for 8 years, and he's blowing up stuff. And this time he's blowing up Taurus. When he goes into the Virgo decan, which is when he goes direct in April of next year, when he goes into the Virgo decan, he's going to be modifying the working energy. And then when 10 degrees further down, he's going to be modifying the structures. So he's a modifier and he explodes things. He's a revolutionary planet. when he was discovered was when we had the American Revolution, the French Revolution. Up until then, people ruled people. And everybody went, I want to be free. So Uranus in Taurus is people wanting to be free. Last time he was in Taurus was the Dust Bowl, and people left the country and moved to the cities. And now people are like, hey, with Uranus, with computers, I don't have to go to the office. Not everybody, obviously, but I don't have to go in the office. I can move somewhere else. So we're seeing real estate prices go up. Uranus in Taurus is where we got into the food shortages. And they just were saying, hey, food shortages coming. There's food shortages in China because Taurus is food and Uranus is disruption. So it's disruption of the supply lines or the food lines. So, it's an interesting energy. And of course, it only happens every 84 years. So none of us alive, except my friend Shirley down in the village, she was born then, 84 years ago, but it's not, it's really a big, it's kind of we're seeing all the people that fought in World War II dying, like, bunches of them every day because they're old now, So Taurus makes us change the structure. Now, Uranus does not like being in an earth sign. He's explosive. So he's like a volcano. So wherever he is in your chart, he's kind of doing a volcano. He's doing it to try and grow things. Because he's, when you want to go grow your garden, with Aries, you cut down the tree. With Taurus, you pull the stump out so you can plant stuff, right? Plant a new garden. And so he's got a harder energy in Taurus because, truthfully, people don't like change. The only reason most people change is because something happened and made them. I mean, aside from the people that have Uranus to their sun, and they're the ones that move. The people that that move every 2 years, those guys like Uranus. The rest of us go, you're gonna make me move, you're gonna make me change. My friend Virginia has like 4 planets in Taurus, and she's like, you gotta pry my fingers off of it. And I always think of that as a very Tauran thing. And of course they're stubborn. Taurus is stubborn, so everybody's extra stubborn right now because Uranus is in Taurus. Yeah, digging into what they think is correct. Their view, because Uranus is the big picture. Taurus is my view is right.
Right.
I'm like, all right, I'm not going to fight with you. Mercury's combust the sun right now. You're gonna shoot at me. Not talking to you.
So, Am, how do you see the interplay between the remaining retrograde planets? So we have Mars and Mercury retrograde and the forward movement of Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto. How do you see those two interplaying? And how do we experience them?
They're the staff that you hired to throw the party.
Who's the staff?
Mercury and Mars.
The staff is still going backwards.
Well, they got to clean up. They got to do the dishes. They got to put the food in the refrigerator. They're still stragglers. They're going to turn the lights on. They're going to start putting the food away, which is how people know they should leave.
Yes.
Those people that are always there till the very end. Yeah.
Right.
Turn the lights up, put the food away. Yeah. So they're going to be retrograde. So Mercury goes direct on November 3rd, which is election day. And Mars goes direct the 12th, 13th, whatever. There's like 3 of them on that 12th, 13th. That's going to be really a hot time, that one. And Mars goes direct, but he's back to July 25th. And then he goes through it for the 3rd time. Mm-hmm. So we see, because he's the big guy, because he's been fighting with the COVID planets since July 25th, when he went into his retrograde, and then he started arguing with them in August. He was arguing them all this month, and now he's done arguing with them, but he's going to argue with them one more time with Pluto, and then he's going to argue with Saturn and Jupiter in January.
He's going to have some words as he's leaving the party. He's going to do his final shouts.
He's going to break a couple dishes in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. So, Anne, okay, so would you say
they're cleaning up? They're cleaning up what needs to be cleaned up.
So in terms of our lives, that would be cleaning up the way that we move forward and cleaning up the way that we think about things, correct? Because we have Mars and Mercury. Mm-hmm. Okay, and
you're also probably going to dig in a little about the stuff that you've been challenged by during the Mercury retrograde, because Mercury in Scorpio goes, I don't think I'm wrong. And when he goes back into Libra, which he's going to do this week, he's going to, well, maybe I could take a different approach to that. Maybe I could communicate. because Libra wants to communicate, but Scorpio is like, I'm right. When he goes into Libra, he goes, maybe you have a point. Maybe you have a point. He's willing to dialogue. But right now, when he's in Scorpio answering to retrograde Mars, he is digging in. He's fighting for his position. And sometimes people, remember, Mercury and the Sun are both in Scorpio reporting into retrograde Mars. Mars fights on principle, right? I mean, he's fighting on principle. He's a warrior planet, but he also isn't, when you're in that mood, when you're in a fight with somebody and you're not, you're throwing in, and when you did that, like in 20 years ago, and you did that, and, you're kind of, this garbage list comes up, that's Mars right now. He's like, and you have to go, okay, can we agree to disagree now? All right, talk to you in a couple of weeks. Because right now you're really mad. Yeah, and I honor that everybody, remember, we have all this pent up energy. I don't know. I love, I watch the late night talk hosts because I find that's a little easier. So Dolly Parton gets on Stephen Colbert, right? And she's coming out with a new album called Storyteller or Story Singer or something like that. And so he was talking, and he said, and clearly he's a fan of hers, because like I love Dolly too. He's like my age. He's a little younger than me, but he said something to her, and she said, well, when I was young, my mama used to sing to me. And so she started singing, and he started crying. And, and he goes, I'm under a lot of tension these days. And it was, I'm sure he's a Virgo rising. I mean, I don't have his chart, but I'm sure, watching him, I'm sure he's a Virgo rising. So he burst into tears, kind of wiping his eyes. She goes, well, I guess I should stop singing because we should continue the interview. And then they go along a little ways further, and she's got this new Christmas album, which he was also promoting. And he goes, I see that Jimmy Fallon's singing a song on this Christmas album. And she goes to him, yes, Jimmy asked me to sing All I Want for Christmas, and I didn't know that song. So when I was on his show, so when I looked it up, and I thought, oh, that's a good song. So I called him and asked him if he wanted to sing it with me on the album. And Stephen's like, yeah, I saw he's singing with you. And so Dolly goes, you have a better voice. And I'm like, and that is why I love Dolly Parton.
Yes. Exactly. Just like diffuse that whole thing right there.
But remember, here's a grown man crying on TV because she's singing a song that's about a woman killing herself and dying under a willow tree because the man ran off and left her. And he's crying. And then he's like, yeah, and Jimmy Fallon's singing on this album. And so she explains why. Yeah. And then she says, but you have a better voice. And he went, so that's how you get out of the fights.
Right.
Compliment them, point out their good thing. Because everybody's got Venus and Virgo this week too. So they're feeling a little thin-skinned, a little sensitive.
Well, the thing is, normally, I mean, I think in most cases, there's more things that we have in common with each other than things that we're disagreeing about. So it's finding that common ground with people and meeting them there and meeting each other in our humanity and in this like sacred hero's journey that every single one of us is on. We're all coming to our place of truth. We're all coming to, why are we here? What are we doing at this time? And so meeting people at their, seeing the beauty in them and meeting them there. That's what she did with him, which is just beautiful that she modeled that. So we can all keep that Dolly Parton image in our mind as we're engaging with people this week. And it's like you said, it's the tensity and, the people feeling like my way is the only way. This is it. This is all that there is.
And I encourage you to watch her new song. It's like, it gets better, or it's going to get better someday, or something like that. It's a beautiful song. So I went and looked at it afterwards and then just sat here crying for like 5 minutes at the computer. And then I watched it again and I cried again. And I'm like, all right.
Wow.
Because it's like when times get better. She just released it. Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to do another plug for that Saturn song.
Yes. Oh, I love that Saturn song. I went and listened to it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. And to me, that's another one. And maybe it depends on your chart and which planets speak to you or whatever, but that song can really elevate
It
you
makes
into
your
a place
insides vibrate.
yes,
That's
it
what I
really does.
noticed about it. It made my insides vibrate.
It's incredible. Yeah. So it's Saturn by sleeping at last. And it's been amazing to hear from the audience. So many of you are also connecting with it in the same way.
Mhm.
But having those things that connect in with our soul at this point is
Mhm.
really powerful.
So important. So
And
important.
reminding us why we're here, that bigger perspective of why we even are incarnated, what we're here doing at this time. So those kinds of things that speak to you at that level beyond,
Yeah.
the level of the soul, I think are really important. And I have that song almost like on repeat. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I
So
think it is, and that is the Neptune this week. So Neptune, you right today and tomorrow moon's in Pisces. So music and feelings are super up. And then on I think it's Wednesday, Thursday, the moon's in Aries. So that's kind of a crabby week. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday it's in Aries, and then Friday until 5 o'clock. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday till 5, a little contentious. And then of course the full moon. But it is a sun opposite Uranus, moon on Uranus, full moon in Taurus. So even though it has good closing aspects, it'll make everybody be like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Like it's a really big aha moment. It's the pop quiz. And so whatever that quiz is that shows up for you on the full moon, you want to kind of stand in your own authority and go, okay, I didn't really study. All right, I'll take the quiz anyway. Or I know the answer. and put it down, or listen to the person who knows it, stand up and give your answers, and then it because you didn't know it when you got called on, like with the Apostles' Creed in my case.
Okay, awesome.
They never got to the O again. She did it every week. No, I mean, I get it, but I'm like, God damn, I hate being an O. I want to be an A.
Yeah, but you were such a leader. You showed everybody what the answer was. So
I did, but then I was like, never it again, which is okay. I mean, that was it. I shared my knowledge, and I got to go. I did get confirmed,
Yes.
Yeah, so that was all right, So it was, but yeah, it's like
the point of it, yeah.
Well, but I think that's how that is how we learn. So this is also a good week to pay attention to what the other guy's doing and learn from it, because the other part with this is Mercury in Scorpio. People are showing you who they are. And when they show you who they are, you want to go, oh, that's who they are. Okay, I got it. Right? Because that's the underlying thing,
Right.
And that's part of our journey. So much of our journey with this year has been looking at our own internal authorities, our parents, how we were raised, the structures we were given, seeing if they still make sense, seeing if they don't. And of course, with Aquarius, it's backing up and looking at it. Now, as a country, we're having Pluto return, right? But when Pluto went into Aquarius, that was when we wrote the Constitution. April of whatever it was, 87, whatever. It was a few years after the Revolutionary War. And, Aquarius, so the Constitution has this balance supposedly between state rights and federal, what that is. And so we've been watching that story as we've watched the virus play out. And we're all getting different opinions about what we think it should be, right? And that also is part of the deal. It's like we're looking at all the structures in our lives. And remember, this particular conjunction, this 22 cap, is a world point. Everybody's going through it in the entire world. So we all breathe the same air. We're all going through this journey. What are your beliefs? Why do you believe them? Where did they come from? Have you ever looked at them? How are they rolling? And why do you believe it? And of course, we're coming from, I believe this, Pluto, Saturn, I believe this. Yeah, it's a little bit obsessive on a bad day, but it's also important to know why you believe it. Where did it come from? Who taught it to you? Do you still believe it? Why do you still believe it? And if you can answer all those questions, great. If you can't, that's what this next couple of weeks is about.
It's a disorienting process.
It is.
To start to dig back and be like, oh, I think that's truth, but why do I think that's truth? Where did that even come from? Who told me that? Like, where did that information come from? Mm-hmm. It's a really disorienting and fascinating process. to do.
Well,
I
had somebody help me clarify it, and this is helpful because it externalizes it. You know, it's like sometimes we don't know where the voice is, but we know it's the voice. You know, and like whose voice is that? My mother, my father, whatever. But what you do is you externalize it, and you go, well, what's your policy on that? And when you do it that way, you're having a dialogue with yourself. And you go, so what's your policy on that? Right. So you and I, when we've had our discussions about your business, my policy with you is this is your business. What do you want me to do? Not my business. It's your business. I mean, I'm willing to be in alignment with your vision for your business as we do this podcast. But if it's my business, I'm going to do it this way.
Yes.
But I totally respect your ability to set your policy for your business. And that helps a lot because policy is a Saturn word. Yeah. It's got polite in it, right? I'm going to be respectful of your policy, which we're not necessarily seeing right now. People being, my policy is this, you can't, and then people going crazy. But that's a Saturn word. I'm in charge. I run this space. This is my space. This is my policy. And so that helps you clarify it if you are unclear, because and of course you can always change your policy, right? That's the other part. Like, well, that was my policy, but I can shift it. And that's, you know, because it's your policy. You're the one that sets it. Right.
Yes. Love
Make
that.
sense? That makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that's been such a huge part of the year because events happen and it's like, well, what are my values here? What are my principles here? What is the policy, quote unquote, around? And I feel like so many of the experiences, especially the challenging ones, have been helping us refine that. Like, what is it that I truly value?
Helping us see what our Saturn is.
Yeah.
They point out, you know, so your Saturn's Leo. That's my Saturn's Scorpio. That's my policy. Yeah. So I'm going to try and sneak it in, but I'm also going to be respectful of your Saturn in Leo. And I have to honor that. And of course, those are squared by signs. And I'm like, come on, let me do it. And you're like, no. And that's okay. That's okay. Because that allows us both to work in harmony and to understand that we can find that place of linking by respecting what each of the other one wants to do. And I know when I start to do it and you get that little look in your eye, I'm like, oh, she knows I'm going there. And then I'm like, all right, I'll stop. Because Saturn and Scorpio does like to torture just a little bit.
It's been such an amazing process though. Okay, so let me do a summary.
That makes sense? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we have pop quiz coming up on this full moon. So have you been doing your Saturn work? Have you been doing the work this year? And if you have, it's going to be like a 2-week. If you haven't, it's going to be like a 10-week. So this is a pop quiz moment. We have Mercury Combust the Sun, which means that nobody's really listening to each other. So you can talk, but probably the other person's not listening and vice versa. So you decide what to do with that.
Waste your breath if you want to, or go do something else, right?
Exactly. Okay. So our thinking and our action are going backwards. So this is Mars and Mercury. These are the staff at the party that are cleaning some things up. So they're cleaning up the way that we are moving forward. They're cleaning up the way that we're thinking about certain things.
Throwing away the garbage.
They're throwing away the garbage. Yeah,
they're putting the food away. They're going, party's over. People, you got to go home.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you can stay there until whoever's holding the party goes, okay, so they're leaving, you're leaving, I'm leaving, So Pluto's in charge of that part. He's going to tell you when you're done. Yeah.
My friends used to have to tell me that there was another party. That was the only way they could get me to leave the party was, there's another party over there. We have to go to that one. Okay.
Saturn and Leo, they love the parties.
So our structures moving forward. So we have our structures. Now it's how do these structures serve the community?
Yes.
So, and we're still revising these things. It's not like totally set in stone, but now the question is turning to how do these structures serve the community? Right. November 12th, 13th, just kind of mark it on your calendar. There's a lot going on that date. That's a lot happening. And then we have a secrets revealed, and we have people showing you who they are. And we have this question around what is your policy? So what is your policy? The easiest, well, one of the things you need to have in place is what are your values? because then you can create your policy around your values.
And
So
sometimes you aren't clear on your values. So when you ask what the policy is, you have it. So I have in my thing, I have a 24-hour cancellation policy. I haven't enforced it maybe twice, because I'm always happy when they cancel or they don't show up, like to move them, because I get that free hour because it's not been assigned to anybody. So I feel like I have found time and I go read a book or something,
Mm-hmm.
So I've never said, oh, you canceled less than 24 hours, I'm taking your money, right? Or you didn't show up. I just reschedule them, but it's in there, and I have had to use it twice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's stated, but I don't enforce it, because that's the other part. You can have a policy, but not enforce it too.
Well, it sounds like this policy isn't like directly linked to something really deep within you that you believe.
No, because my time is more important to me than my money.
Exactly. So that's where your value, that is values right there. Yeah. Okay. And thank you so much for.
So I pulled my calendar. So Mars hits Pluto on the 12th, or Jupiter hits Pluto on the 12th. So that's their last union. And Mars goes direct on the 13th of November. So those are the 2 days. And then it's forward. And that day, the moon is in Scorpio with a lot of really hot aspects. And then there's a new moon right behind that in Scorpio on the 15th. So it's a little turbulent time there. And if we know it, we know that's kind of a hot period. And of course, we know the lead up to it, right, is when everything builds. Yeah. And the lead up to Mars stopping is when everybody gets very tense. So just kind of mark those 2 days. Because I was like, Anne, you should know the difference, like which is which. So the 12th is Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars going direct is the 13th.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's all happening around that time. The analogies you gave today, brilliant. I'm loving them. They're definitely going to stick. Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you for being here every week. We're like coming up to the end of the year. This is amazing. I can't believe we're here.
Yep. We're all about to graduate into Jupiter and Aquarius. Yay!
Yes. I just wanted
Jupiter
to
and
mention
Saturn and Aquarius.
A couple things that came up during this episode. The Do Your Saturn Workshop, if you haven't taken it yet, you still can. astrologyhub.com/Saturn. Also, our Instagram page. So for those of you who are on Instagram, we've really started taking a lot of great pieces from these episodes, really working with the aspects each day. So if you like to have that kind of bite-sized information, Instagram is a really great place for you to follow us. That's astrology.hub on Instagram. And otherwise, can't wait to see you all next week after this full moon.
After the full moon. And watch for the pop quiz and go, I know the answer.
There it is.
Or go, uh-oh, I didn't know the answer, but I'm going to pay attention and I'm going to learn the answer, and then I'm going to know it.
Before the big, huge final test on December 21st, right? We still have some time. All right.
Well, we have a few little tests, but yeah, that's the big one. Well, that's the transition. That's when that's when Jupiter hops in the car. She says, can we change the station? He goes, sure. Bruce Springsteen goes off, Dolly Parton goes on, and they drive off into the sunset.
I love
Or maybe Kenny Rogers. Islands in the Stream,
Nice. Awesome. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of our community. And as always, thank you for making astrology a part of your life. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.